That song just ends too quickly. You'll get the full version in 2 weeks. Oh, yeah. All Boston, all day. Here we go. All I want is to have some peace of mind, which is true. Whether it's on the battlefield or on the football field or... Oh, I probably should let you know. If the sermon's not going well today and you leave, I'm not going to like it. Just saying... Nobody record this. But there are some 5th and 6th graders now that have known nothing but war. Their families have, it's just been that way for dozens of years now. And whether it's in Afghanistan or in Pakistan, which we heard about this morning. I don't know if you've heard about the killings that took place in a Christian church in Pakistan. Or whether your son is on the coast of Syria in a Navy boat. We know very little about peace, don't we? And whether it's a nation, or whether it's in a marriage, or whether it's not whether it's at a workplace environment, or whether it's just in our own heart and soul, we struggle with peace. I mean, even in the sports world, we talk about that. We're going in for a battle today. It's going to be a war. We're going to kill them. And wow. We even have that same mentality oftentimes in the marketplace and bring it home with us. So today we started a whole new message series about peace. And the world does offer us peace. The world, in fact, if you were to Google peace or peace of mind, you're going to get all kinds of really interesting things. You can buy peace. It's a perfume. It's $245 for just a little ounce or so of it. And I guess there is a high price for peace. You smell better if you buy that, but okay. You can get peace of mind home security systems, peace of mind funeral services, peace of mind candles, peace of mind plumbing warranties. All kinds of things conjured up in my mind over that one. It was interesting. That's the whole point of selling insurance. This is going to give you peace of mind. We ought to try all kinds of ways of getting peace. We'll travel to exotic locations, sitting on a beach for 7 days and just vegging out. We're just vegging out. And it gives us a little bit of taste of what peace might be like if it could be all-inclusive food and drinks and sunshine and sand and cabana boys. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Yeah, that'd be great. And then they cut that little wrist thing off of your wrist, and you got to go back to hamburger helper. We smoke some funny stuff to try to get us to have peace. Sit in very uncomfortable positions and counting to 100. But the truth is, peace eludes us most of the time. Stress and anxiety and frustration and worry and tension are more what we deal with than anything else. Now, this may come to a shock to most of you, but most of our life is beyond our control. Even our greatest attempts to try to control life, it is beyond our control. We can't do anything about it. We get super frustrated at the fact that our flight is delayed a little bit. We can't do anything about it. We can rant and rave and let people know we're not happy about this, but there's nothing we can do about it. Whether it's a couple who wants to get pregnant or a single person who didn't want to. Things are oftentimes beyond what we can do. Have you ever tried to change someone? They don't cooperate, do they? The quickest way to lose peace in your life is to try to change someone because they're just not going to. You can't do anything about it. And Hollywood leads us to believe that it will be a fairy tale ending. Bad stuff's going to happen for a little while, but it's all going to be pretty good at the end. And many of us are kind of waiting for that happy ending thing. The phrase we would like to hear is, and they lived happily ever after. We think that's going to happen. One of the Hebrew names for God is Jehovah Shalom. I am the God of peace. The most common greeting in the New Testament between Christians was grace and peace to you. We are to live in peace. And Jesus says to his followers over and over again, peace be for you. John 14:27. I'm leaving you with a gift. Peace of mind and heart. What a wonderful gift. Now, my mom always wanted peace and quiet. But Jesus says, I'm going to give you the gift of peace of mind and heart. And the peace I give is a gift the world cannot give. As much as we'd like to be able to get peace of mind from music and maybe from drugs or maybe from relationships or maybe from money, man, if I could just get this, everything's going to be right. But the world cannot. It doesn't deliver. It will not be able to do it. Jesus says it plain and clearly. The world's going to try, give you, here's some things that are going to help you and calm you down, maybe help you veg out a little bit, but the world can't do it. It can't do it. So, don't be troubled or afraid. I want you to know right up front that Jesus is not offering you a life that is free from tension or strife or even anxiety. He's not offering you a problem-free life. Now, I think if Jesus said, hey, I'm going to give you peace of mind, all you need to do is just believe in me and get baptized, all of you, and your life's going to be great. Everything's going to work out. Everything's going to be fine, beautiful, happy. A lot of little birds singing, a lot of little flowers growing, and it's wonderful. We win all the time. Nobody loses, no cancer, nobody getting sick, nobody's going, right? Here's a little protective bubble I'm going to give to my believers. Those outside the bubble aren't going to do so well. But inside the bubble, we're going to have a great time. And everybody's going to get along. And nobody is going to be sad. Well, he doesn't offer that. In fact, Jesus said, in this world you will have trouble. Which is like, right? We wish that wasn't in the Bible. In this world you will have peace. No, in this world you're going to have trouble. Now, one of the keys to peace is to accept what we cannot change. To accept what we cannot change. Super hard. In the book of 2 Samuel in the Old Testament, there's a story about King David who had a young baby who was dying. David did everything in his power to bring about a different result. Brought in the best doctors, physicians, people come in, please help out. And he had the financial means to be able to pull this off. No expenses were spared. He brought in the best. He prayed and fasted for 7 days straight, went into the temple and pleaded with God, pleaded his case, cried out before God, begged God, please, don't let my son die. On the 7th day, his baby died. God did not answer his prayer the way David had prayed. And when David's advisors had heard that the baby had died, they were distraught because they knew what would probably be the result of letting the king know, that he would be devastated and inconsolable and out of control. They were afraid to tell him. Nobody wanted to bring him the bad news. When David heard them whispering, he said to his advisors, "Did my child die?" "Yes, King." Something kind of strange happened at that moment. At least it's strange for the people around him. David got up, took a bath, put some clean clothes on, ate a big meal, and went to work. The advisors couldn't believe it. They said, "What are you doing? You were in agony before the child died. Are you okay with this?" David said this, "I know that one day when I die, I will be reunited with him. In the meantime, there is nothing else now I can do about it." Acceptance of what cannot be changed. Philippians 4. Not that I was ever in need, for I have learned how to be content with whatever I have. I know how to live on almost nothing or with everything. I've learned the secret of living in every situation, whether it's full stomach or empty, plenty or little. For I can do everything through Christ who gives me strength. Learning to accept is a choice. I know oftentimes when bad stuff happens in our world or there's a lot of turmoil, we want explanations. Why is this happening? We go to God and say, how come? Why couldn't you stop this? Why did you let this go on for so long? God doesn't owe us an explanation, gang. He's the creator, and He's good, and He's just, and He's kind. Even if I get an explanation, I'm not sure that's going to help. I'm not sure. In fact, some of you have even got the explanation, and it didn't help. What comforts us then in those moments is not an explanation, but the presence of God in our lives. You ever been in a crisis where God is silent? It's super hard to handle, isn't it? I mean, like you ask God, give me a sign, help me out, give me a word, and nothing happens. When Job, a guy in the Old Testament, was going through hell, he had lost his whole lot, his family, his money's gone, his health is failing. And yet he says this, though he slay me, yet I will still trust in him. In fact, his family says, just curse God and die. And he says, well, how can I even do that when God is silent? That usually means that there's a test going on. Teachers, when you give a test, do you allow people to talk during the test? In fact, do you yourself talk during the test? So you say, hey, you know what, I'm struggling on question 3. What's the answer? You don't give them the answer, do you? Even though it's like you know the answer, but you're it's a test. Everybody's supposed to be remain silent, no talking. Now, you get the answers later in that kind of test. We might not get the answers to the questions we've had here on earth until we get to heaven. But oftentimes it's just silence. You might know this famous prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. That's called the serenity prayer. Oftentimes, if you're in AA, you know that. You pray that prayer. But the prayer goes on. That's not the end of it. Check this out. Living one day at a time, accepting hardship as the pathway to peace. Taking, as Jesus did, this sinful world as it is, not as I would have it. Trusting that you, God, will make all things right if I surrender to your will, so that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with you in the next. All the power in this prayer is in the second part, is through acceptance and trust and surrender that begins our path to peace. This is really tough. If you're in a marriage that doesn't seem to be working out, you do your best that you can to bring about resolution, but you accept the person, whether they change or not. If you've had some health issues, you find the best doctors you can, and you work on it, but once you hit that wall, there's nothing else that you can do. You accept what cannot be changed. As Isaiah 26:3, you will keep in perfect peace all who trust in you, all whose thoughts are fixed on you. Proverbs 3, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not depend on your own understanding. Seek His will in all you do, and He will show you which path to take. There is no such thing as a problem-free life, because it is always something. The moment you get done with one problem, there's another problem. It's called life. Satan is real. He wants to mess with you. He wants to mess with your life. He's going to mess with your family. He's going to try to do his best to mess with your money. He's going to mess with your marriage. He's going to try to mess you up. As a result, oftentimes, of him trying to mess us up, we make bad choices. Sometimes and therefore we don't have a whole lot of peace during that time. Sometimes it's nobody's fault. It's just stuff happens. Jesus met a man who one time he was blind, and people thought it was his parents' fault. Somebody thought he must have sinned or something to get this kind of disease. And so Jesus said, no, this is nobody's fault. But this man has been blind so that God's power may be displayed in his life. Regardless of the problem or the source of the problem, we can trust in God. Philippians 4, don't worry about anything. Now, isn't that ridiculous? I mean, who wrote that? Are you kidding? Don't worry about anything. Anybody living that out well? Don't worry about anything. Anybody a pro at worrying besides me? I mean, I can, you could, right, you hit the pillow and you think, I can go from here to about here in seconds, imagining the worst. If you haven't been able, if you don't do that, you don't have teenagers. It just gets there quickly. Don't worry about anything. Instead, pray about everything. Because if you have time enough to worry, you're going to have time enough to pray. Tell God what you need and thank Him for all He's done. Then, right? It's then. If I do this, if I pray about everything, tell God what I need, thank Him, then you will experience God's peace. Oh. Which exceeds anything we can understand. Because of my job, I get to see the highest of the highs and the lowest of the lows in people's lives. I'm invited into those situations. An incredible privilege and one that I'm humbled by all the time. And I've marveled at some of your faith that I've seen over the years now. Some of the most devastating news, the most horrible, terrible news that you've ever, people can get in a life. And I've watched your faith. And it's beyond my understanding how you've been able to navigate through life. Not with an attitude that says, oh well. But probably an attitude that says, I'm going to have to trust you, God, on this one. And you faced it head on. Not without tears or some fear. But you've navigated through life, and as I've watched you do that, I've grown in my faith because you have showed me what it's like to trust. What it's like to trust when tough times come. His peace will guard your hearts and minds as you live in Christ Jesus. Romans 8. So letting your sinful nature control your minds leads to death. Letting the Spirit control your mind leads to life and peace. Here is then the difference. Navigating through life on our own terms and trying to deal with life and handling it by my own intelligence or my good looks or my money or my power, my influence, or just my own determination will only lead us to more worry and frustration and ultimately into death because we are just going to exist at that moment. And so the way I can navigate through here is what? Letting the Spirit control your mind leads to life and peace. We're going to talk more about this next weekend, and I hope you will do what you can to get here next weekend because it is probably the key to the whole deal. But we're going to struggle with peace in our life if we don't have peace with God. There's no doubt about it. And I've heard people say over and over again, like, well, I made peace with God. I made peace with God. See, I can't make peace with God. He makes peace with me, and He says, here's the deal. Here's the deal. So we're going to talk about the deal next weekend. But if you're at war with God, you're going to lose. You might think you're winning, but you are going to lose. He's going to defeat all His enemies. There's no doubt about that. If you fight Him, you're going to lose. If you want to wrestle with Him or you want to argue with Him, you will never win the argument. That little phrase in Psalm 23 when it says, He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. We always kind of think of it as like, oh, that sounds so nice. Yes, oh, bliss. Oh, right? He's going to make me, oh, please maketh me to lie down. But sometimes you look like, you know how He has to make us lie down sometimes? Quit fighting me. Just quit. Give up. Surrender. Right? Like you're in a wrestling match with God. He says, the only way this is going to stop is if you give up. Because the evidence of a surrendered life is obedience. When God says to do it, I do it. It doesn't matter if I don't understand it or don't get it or don't like it. I don't care if it's hard or not. If God says to do it in His Word and it doesn't make sense, I still do it. If He says don't do it, I don't argue with Him. I don't write Him off as some sort of lunatic, crazy, out of control, ridiculous God who doesn't know what He's doing. Psalm 119, 165 says, those who love your instructions have great peace. Those who love your instructions have great peace. And parents, you know this, right? When your kids are doing what you've asked them to do, is it a whole lot more peaceful at your home? Like when you say, hey, be home at 12, and they're home at 12? Or can you do this? Or can you, right? Or if they're just, right? But it's when we decide to do what we want to do, and I don't care what I don't even care what the consequences are. Bring it on. When there's turmoil and stress and anxiety and just heaviness that's over the household. It's true. And it's that way when our relationship with God is when I decide, I do what I'm going to do. I know you might think I should do that. And I know you told me to be home by, I think I got it. I think I got it. I'll be fine. Back off. Those who love your instructions will have great peace and do not stumble. The result of being in control, calling the shots, the results are clear. Worry, guilt, resentment, fear, anxiety, depression, despair. We have whole industries now dedicated to solving all those problems. Worry and guilt and resentment and fear and anxiety, depression, despair describe many of our lives. The result of letting God be God and me surrendering to Him, peace and power and purpose and wisdom and joy and meaning and eternal life. So why not surrender to God? What is it that you're angry about? Your marriage that didn't work out, a marriage that didn't happen, those plans that you had didn't materialize. When you hold on to your anger, you're saying, I knew better than God, I got it all figured out, and you're cutting off the very source and the very center of peace and hope. And is God trustworthy or not? There's only one way to peace. It's trust and to surrender to Him right now. And His peace is like anything, it's unlike anything you've ever experienced. It's unlike that. You can't get it. You can't get it anywhere else. It's a peace that's not offered anywhere place else. I guarantee you, when you finally fully surrender to the Lord, the moment you hit the waters of baptism, it's as if there's this blanket of peace that comes over your whole life, and you want it to be like that the rest of your life. And it probably is not going to be that way for the rest of your life because life happens and stuff. But you can keep going back to those moments of peace and trust and surrender and find that again. Now maybe you need to do that today. Maybe it's time. You've been right. It's just time. And we'd love for that to happen today. If you want to talk with me after the service, be glad to pray with you and talk with you and take you to the next step in your pathway to peace. Let's pray. How I want it to be true. How I want to be able to say that I love your instructions. Because when I follow them, Lord, I have great peace. So instead of me being in control, I'm going to let you. All I want is peace of mind. And so may you guard my heart and my mind. We certainly want it in the nation. We want to be at peace. We want those folks in Washington, D.C. who are making decisions right now to figure out ways of bringing peace. We'd like that peace to happen in our city. Seems like a lot of things are out of control, a lot of violence, a lot of people hurting, a lot of anger. May that peace come to Omaha. And may it come to 8101 North 230th Street. May peace rule in our home and our family as you continue to guide our lives. Thank you. In Christ's name.